Alright, everyone, welcome to Mission 3 of the musician journey, and this is going to be about understanding the world of Web3 music. And here we're going to look at the key concepts, opportunities, and challenges for musicians in this Web3 music industry. So, we've covered the fundamentals of what blockchain is, what Web3 is, and now it's time to look at what the Web3 music industry is. So, this is an industry that has been really aggressively picking up in the last few months. We had Tune.fm, which just closed a $50 million funding round. Drip, which is on Solana, raised $8 million for music creators, and there are many such incredible Web3 music companies that are designed to really work on the problems the music industry is facing. So the music industry in general is undergoing a renaissance, and music technology is bringing transformation to fields like ownership, rights management, the artist-fan relationship, distribution, funding, and investment. We're going to try and understand some of the key concepts in Web3 music by exploring one example startup from each of these concepts. So the first concept to understand is music NFTs. So what are music NFTs? These are digital assets that represent ownership or rights to a piece of music or music-related content. So these are non-fungible tokens. So unlike fungible tokens like cryptocurrencies, each NFT is unique and it cannot be exchanged for another token or for a like-to-like basis. The types of music NFTs that you can look at are single tracks, individual songs can be minted as NFTs, albums, even stems and samples, components of a track can be minted as NFTs. There can be limited edition content, music videos can be sold as NFTs. There are a lot of music NFTs, that one-of-one music videos that were sold for $8,000, $10,000. Concert tickets can be sold as NFTs, and there can be NFTs also representing royalties for existing music depending on streams. And there's also NFTs that offer unique experiences to fans. So there's a lot of different kinds of NFTs. And how do these work? So artists create an NFT by uploading their music onto a blockchain platform, and the smart contracts on these blockchain are basically deciding the terms of the NFTs. Are there royalties? Are there rights? And these can be sold on an open market. So that's the beauty of NFTs, is that royalties keep sort of accruing to the creator for every resale or every iteration that this NFT is sold. The original creator continues to get royalties. What are the benefits for artists? You can directly sell to the fans, new sorts of revenue streams where you're using this digital scarcity and fan engagement, royalties on resales like I touched upon earlier. You get a percentage each time the NFT is resold, and there's a lot more creative freedom when you're not depending on millions of streams for success. And for fans, what are the benefits for fans? They have ownership of music they love and enjoy, exclusive content. They get to really form this bond with musicians and with artists. And of course, there is investment potential through royalties, through resale. And let's now look at one notable music NFT platform. So Sound.xyz is one of the biggest NFT platforms out there. Here you can see, you can explore what are the viral sounds. You can see that all of these NFTs are being collected by listeners, by artists. And here you can go to the explore section where you see different genres of music NFTs that you can release. And how does working on Sound work, right? So you sign up with your wallet that you created in the earlier stage. There is an approval process where they ensure you're an artist that can release music on this platform. You do need to have original music that you can drop here. And once your approval is done, that's it. You can release your existing music as NFTs, share them directly with your collectors. So this is Sound.xyz that has been doing really fundamental great work in the space. There are other platforms like Catalog and Royal that also work in this format of music NFTs and let artists really connect with their audiences. So that is what music NFTs is. The first major concept you need to understand. The second is tokenization of rights and royalties. So we all know that rights are a hugely contested issue in the music industry. They cause a lot of problems not having rights really tracked, and many artists are the ones that lose out in the process, right? So when we convert these rights of a song and the royalties into a tokenized concept, we make them as digital tokens on the blockchain. This is the concept of tokenization of music. And they represent fractional ownership in the song's rights. They can be bought, they can be traded. And how this works is that the rights to a song are converted into a set number of tokens, and these tokens are governed by smart contracts that decide who gets royalty, how it's allowed to be traded, and stuff like that. And what are the kinds of rights that can be tokenized, right? So we know music has a complex categorization of rights, so you can actually categorize the rights. You can publish the ownership of the master recording, like master rights, publishing rights, performance rights, sync rights, mechanical rights. So the blockchain basically allows you to really separate between the different kinds of rights and set percentages all automatically without cumbersome manual processes, right? What are the benefits? There's liquidity. It's not an illiquid market anymore, right? So whoever owns these rights can get liquidity for them and really bring in a lot more ownership, allow smaller investors like fans to also own a piece of the music that they listen to, right? Transparency and automation is another huge thing. There's no more dependence on the manual recognition of these rights. It's all transparent, it's all on the blockchain. And royalties are also automated. You don't need to wait for someone to pay it out. Everything happens instant. And you can see all of it on the blockchain. Some interesting rights platforms to look at are, so producers NFTs, one such project that just came out. I believe this is from the Universal Music team that's working closely with this, and you can see what happens here. It's a collection of digital characters, and it's powering the world's first social fi songwriting syndicate. What happens in this songwriting syndicate? So it's giving creative power to people and elevates the potential of artists involved. So the producers hold voting power in songwriting camps that this company hosts all over the world, and the creative contribution entitles holders to a share of the master royalties. Right. So we've seen, it's not Universal, it's Warner Music that's working with this team. And you can see how it's a very interesting model. We're involving the fans. We have some great producers on this platform. They have 30 billion streams between them. And now they're letting the fans and the listeners have a say in it, right? So if you hold this NFT, you're basically qualifying for rewards from artists, from distributors of the songs that's created at these songwriting camps. Very interesting models, and you're not really dependent on anyone to actually pay these out, right? Everything happens transparently on the blockchain. So that was producers NFT. There's also music protocol that's doing some really interesting work in the space with something called the MBUSD. So what you need to understand is the concept of stable coins. MBUSD is a stable coin too, but this is a unique stable coin. It's a tokenized bond backed by future music royalties, right? So just by holding this stable coin, you're qualifying for royalties that this fund basically invests in, right? The money, your funds are still safe. You're still having a stable coin that's not susceptible to volatile market risks. And through this campaign, you're earning sort of future royalties that come from the company that's from Music Protocol that invests these funds into music and brings music on chain. So these are some very interesting models that we can see. Oculus is also doing some great work with music copyright-backed loans and investments, and Allfeed is also another blockchain that's doing great work bringing metadata of music on chain. So that was a brief about tokenized music and tokenizing rights and royalties. Now let's look at the next sort of category is the decentralized streaming platforms, right? So we're all used to platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, where you can stream music, but decentralized streaming is different from centralized platforms in a way that there's no centralized party that controls this music and ownership. This ownership is distributed across a network of users, artists, and node operators. And that means anyone can basically run the infrastructure that's needed for a streaming service. There's often token economics involved where listeners are rewarded to listen to music. Artists are rewarded in much higher rates for their music that they publish on these platforms. And it works similar to a regular streaming service. Artists upload their music, it goes on to decentralized storage, and there's a network of nodes that actually ensure this music is available for streaming. For a listener, the process is same. You listen to music the same way you do on regular streaming platform. Benefits for artists are you get higher royalties, there's transparent payouts, and there's ownership of their work now, right? They retain more control, and there's new monetization models combined with the earlier concepts that we learned earlier. And for listeners, they're rewarded. They have a lot more influence on the platforms, right? They get say over the playlist. They have control and ownership over the data that they generate. Very valuable listening data, and they're able to actually monetize this data that usually they're just generating for free and giving away to these big platforms. Some notable streaming platforms are Audius, which is really doing some pioneering work. They recently signed a sort of global licensing deal with Cobalt, and that basically gives songwriters on Cobalt access to Audius's marketplace. And they have their own token too, called Audio, so you're basically even rewarded to listen to music on Audius, right? And we have also another great company doing amazing work is Gala Music. So it runs in a similar concept, right? So you can be a listener on this platform, and you can actually buy tracks that are released on this platform and be one of the nodes in this community, right? So if you own these NFTs that are being sold here, you see some really powerful artists here. We have Earl Sweatshirt. You can own these NFTs, and then as an artist, on the number of streams a particular song gets, you can be a node operator and earn these music tokens every time that song is streamed, right? So really super interesting models in decentralized streaming. And what's the impact on the industry? So there's really more fair value distribution, there's removal of a lot of intermediaries, and most importantly, ownership of data for artists and fans, since everything is available on the blockchain. The next sort of subsector we're going to look at is fan engagement and the artist-fan relationship. So even outside Web3 music, this is really a trending sort of space. Musicians are realizing that 100 superfans are worth more than millions of fans that don't know you or just stream your music without understanding you, right? So we're moving from this one-to-many broadcast model to a more collaborative, community-driven approach. And what are the sort of opportunities here, right? Like, so there's tokens, there's NFTs that we learned earlier, there's also DAOs that allow for group decision making. And for the artists, again, there's a lot more similar benefits like we discussed earlier. And what we really need to look at is some interesting platforms that are doing this right now, right? So one great platform to look at is Medallion.fm. they've really been working with some of the best artists all around the world to form these exclusive and wholesome communities for musicians, right? You can see J Balvin has Familia, Jungle has the Jungle Fan Club, and all of these really help make life of musicians much happier, because they get to connect with their fans, and the listeners are happy too, right? Because they have a private group with their artists now, and it feels a lot more special, a lot more unique, this beautiful music relationship, right? So Medallion is doing really amazing work here. And the next thing to look at is the DAO concept, right? So DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, and this is, I could say, an extension of the fan engagement step here. Once we have those groups, once we have those relationships created, how do we empower these communities, right? And that's where DAOs come in, using things like tokens, using NFTs. There can be artist DAOs, for artists to manage and work and communicate with their fans. There's label DAOs. You can have a decentralized record label and find good music and have a community being a label. You can have collector DAOs, festival DAOs, curation DAOs, so many different kinds of opportunities for communities to come together and make music better. Some examples of music DAOs, Moda DAOs, a great DAO building Web3 infra for the music industry. A great example of a music DAO is Zao, which is led by Zao, and he's doing really amazing work bringing together musicians, artists from all walks of life, and they have these really fun weekly calls where people are helping each other out, sharing insights. I love his username too, Better Call Zao. So that's an example of a music DAO. And now we'll also look at some case studies. We've had some really huge musicians dropping NFT collections, releasing royalties. 3Law has been really integrated with this industry. He's also the founder of Royal.io that we discussed earlier. Snoop Dogg has been really very into this industry. He's done music NFTs, released music on sound.xyz. Many such artists all over the world who are understanding the power of Web3 music and to build better relationship with their fans and more sustainable incomes. So that was a summary of everything that we looked at in this Web3 music space, right? So we understand the concept of music NFTs, we understood what tokenization of music rights and royalties looks like. We also looked at decentralized streaming platforms in Web3 music, and fan engagement, direct artist-fan relationships in Web3 music, and finally the concept of DAOs, that is decentralized autonomous organizations. What are some takeaways for you from this lesson? What do you think about this Web3 music? Would love to know. And now is when you really start using those profiles that you created in the earlier space. Try finding your space, in this community. Like we mentioned, there's many DAOs that you can find a lot of supportive people here to help you on your journey. Your objective for this mission is going to be to write a short report on one of these 5 subsectors that we discussed, right? What excites you the most? What do you think is something that you can manage, you can do? It has to be something that comes from your heart, right? It cannot be forced. The audience understands that. So which of these Web3 music platforms or which of these concepts excites you the most as a musician? Start getting into these communities, join these communities, and set up your profile on one of these Web3 music platforms. So that is going to be the completion of Mission 3 for you. Thank you so much for listening, and see you in the next mission.